The O.J. Simpson trial. The day in review. A Fox 11 News special report.
It was the day many have been waiting for. Closing argument start of the O.J. Simpson trial. Unlike every other day, they started late and they had a few surprises. Good evening, everybody. I'm John Beard. Welcome to the day in review. Joining me tonight to take a look at the first day's proceedings are Fox legal analyst Luke McKissick, and then a little bit later on, Richard Green, an attorney and jury analyst. Even though everybody thought it would be a straightforward day today, the trial of the century took another crazy turn. Susan Lickman has been to the courthouse since early this morning, and she joins us now live. Susan.
Doesn't it take a turn every single day of this trial for the past 9 months, John? The trial started today. The prosecution led off. Marsha Clark spoke for about 5.5 hours. Chris Darden spoke for about an hour after that. And basically what they focused on is why O.J. Simpson would kill, how he did it, and the trail of evidence he left behind.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Finally.
Right out of the gates in a methodical closing argument, Marsha Clark made a preemptive strike, bringing up the prosecution's most embarrassing witness, former LAPD detective Mark Furman.
Did he lie when he testified here in this courtroom, saying that he did not use racial epithets in the last 10 years? Yes. Is he a racist? Yes. Is he the worst LAPD has to offer? Yes. But the fact that Mark Furman is a racist and lied about it on the witness stand does not mean that we haven't proven the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Then came the timeline, the window of opportunity for the murders, between 9:26 when O.J. and Cato Kalin come back from dinner to 10:15 when Bundy neighbors begin to hear Nicole's wailing dog. Clark focused on Cato Kalin, telling the jury Cato saved $6,000 by freeloading at O.J.'s house, was very indebted to Simpson, though he unwittingly linked O.J. to the crimes when he told cops about hearing 3 thumps outside his guest house at 10:45 p.m.
Very loud.
Clark contends those thumps were made by Simpson as he allegedly dropped the bloody Rockingham glove. And she said Cato further implicated O.J. when he described their return to Rockingham after having dinner at McDonald's.
When they got back to Rockingham, Cato got out and he walked towards the house, expecting the defendant to follow him. But when he got to the front door, he turned and he realized he's not here. And he saw the defendant still standing by the Bentley, watching him. Why wait for Cato to be out of sight?
Clark said that gave Simpson time to get in the Bronco and go to Bundy shortly after 9:30 p.m. Then Clark described the arrival of limo driver Alan Park, who buzzed Simpson's gate beginning at 10:40 p.m. And after seeing a shadowy figure going toward the house around 11, buzzed again, finally getting O.J. on the intercom.
Why, when he answered the intercom for Alan Park, did he lie and say, "I've overslept"?
Clark then went into the blood evidence at Rockingham and Bundy, challenging the defense's core theory.
First of all, I want to hear Mr. Cochran actually stand up in front of you and tell you he believes the blood was planted. I want to hear that.
And then there were the astounding odds.
You'd have to go through 57 billion people to find the DNA profile that matches Mr. Simpson's. There's only 5 billion people on the planet. Ladies and gentlemen, that's an identification. If you know that that's true, if you know it's her blood on his socks that they find on the morning of June the 13th, that alone, with the rear gate stain, convicts him.
But she continued to weave the trail of evidence.
On the knit cap, we have the defendant's hair and the Bronco fiber from the carpet in his Bronco. The blue-black cotton fibers that he found that shared the same microscopic characteristics as those he found on Ron Goldman's shirt were found on the Rockingham glove and on the defendant's socks. Those are fibers from what the defendant was wearing that night. You recall what Cato described. He was wearing the dark blue to black cotton sweatsuit.
A sweatsuit that was never found. Neither would the size 12 Bruno Magli shoes that the prosecution says O.J. wore that night.
Casual shoes that cost $160. Not dress shoes. Shoes that would be worn by a rich man.
At one point, Clark talked about the cuts on O.J.'s knuckles, and when the camera zoomed in, you could see some notes that O.J. was passing to his attorneys. That set off a chain reaction, ending with Judge Ito shutting off the courtroom camera.
And it's a very flagrant violation and intrusion into the attorney-client privilege. and I'm inclined to terminate the coverage at this time.
Eventually, an angry Judge Ito fined the media $1,500, and the camera was turned back on an hour later. You could hear the collective sigh of relief. Then she focused on the glove at Rockingham.
So what do we find on the Rockingham glove, the one he dropped? We find everything. Everything.
And about the prosecution's bungled glove demonstration.
If they were so hard to get on, how come they came off like that?
And Clark stressed that this was not a drug hit. This was a crime of passion allegedly committed by an obsessed ex-husband.
No stranger, no Colombian drug dealer. A man who was involved with his intended victim. One who wanted to control her and failed. And in failing, found the one way to keep her under control where she could never slip out of it again. And that man is this defendant.
Prosecutor Christopher Darden tried to dethrone O.J. Simpson and his image as a beloved public figure and a national hero.
We don't ignore the law just because of the status of a defendant, because of who he is or because of who he knows. That isn't justice. You're here to ensure justice. I'm here to ensure justice.
Darden also tried to diffuse the impact of Mark Furman, saying his disgusting racist views are not the issue in this case.
This case is about this defendant, O.J. Simpson, and the M word, murder. It's not about Mark Furman and the N word. And you know what that is.
And Darden listed Simpson's past record of spousal abuse, citing a 1992 incident when Nicole, half-dressed, yelled to police,
"He's going to kill me. He's going to kill me. He's going to kill me." And she shouted.
Chris Darden ended up saying that O.J. Simpson had a fuse that started burning back in 1985 when the first incident of spousal abuse was reported. He said that O.J. Simpson at that point didn't have any idea how out of control he was, and has over the years had no idea of how out of control he was, so out of control that on the night of June 12th, he murdered his ex-wife and Ron Goldman. John?
All right, Susan, stick around. I want you to join us in this discussion. And we're going to be taking viewer phone calls in just a few minutes.